look at the evidence of Saudi Arabia's connections to international fraud and crimes against humanity closely linked to Donald Trump and leaders of other nations. It's the 17th of May 2025. I'm Gary Waterman, a former UK police constable, and I believe there is no doubt that I am being guided by our true creator to prevent what this evil system has in store for humanity. Please verify and corroborate the evidence that I'm showing you. Particularly important is the Companies House registration system evidence, which is the government's own registration system where there are legal implications if they are using it for crimes. And they are forging registration systems and incorporation documents in relation to all of this. Here are some articles just to start looking at Donald Trump's visit to the Middle East and Saudi Arabia over the last few days. On the left, going into one of these articles, it says Trump visits the Middle East, and underneath, for the second time in his presidency, Donald Trump's first official state visit is to Saudi Arabia. So clearly Saudi Arabia is very important in all of this. On the right, somebody from TikTok has picked up on him speaking in front of the emblem for this event, and the emblem having 666 within it. Here's the emblem on the left, and on the right zoomed in, and you can see the three very distinct areas within the circle: the green, the red and white stripes, and the blue and white stars. In the center is a circle where the three sixes, the circles of the six, converge, and the three tails of the sixes come off and twist round to the outside of the circle. This is almost identical in relation to the design of CERN, the Hadron Collider, which I believe is the real threat to not only humanity but Earth itself in relation to their sinister plans. About the forum on the left, it says the Saudi-US Investment Forum is being held on the occasion of the state visit to Saudi Arabia of the 45th and 47th President of the United States, Mr. Donald J. Trump. 45th, 4 plus 5 equals 9. 47th, 4 plus 7 equals 11. 9/11, the date of the World Trade Center disaster, which is so important in relation to everything that we're seeing now being exposed. You can pause this, further information below in relation to the relationship and this between Saudi Arabia and the US and this particular event. There's a lot of history between them. On the right, we're now going to look at information in relation to Mohammed bin Salman, the leader of Saudi Arabia. And here it says he was born in 1985 and is the de facto ruler of the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia, formerly serving as Crown Prince and Prime Minister. He is the heir apparent to the Saudi throne, the seventh son of King Salman of Saudi Arabia and the grandson of the nation's founder. Here is a picture of him on the right. Further down, it mentions that after obtaining a law degree from King Saud University, he became an advisor to his father in 2009. 2009 is a very important year because it is when the Royal Foundation of the Prince and Princess of Wales Company was founded on Companies House, and that makes the link from every area of research of the fraud, including coming in from the international child trafficking, Ghislaine Maxwell and Jeffrey Epstein, and it makes the links through to this fraud very, very quickly indeed. I've actually found out today, somebody has sent me some information, that since I've been exposing this, almost a fifth of the companies on Companies House have dissolved. Over 1 million, nearly 1.2 million companies have dissolved since I've been exposing this. Further down, 2009 is very important because it was also when the Iranian Green Movement took place. And I suspect this is, from the evidence, closely integrated to the false climate change agenda tying into all of this. But it actually being an infiltration into the Muslim faith group to facilitate their crimes against humanity. Further down, you can see that he was promoted to Crown Prince in 2017. This becomes important when we look at the Fleming Co. Limited Company in a moment. Below that, you'll see that he succeeded his father as Prime Minister in 2022. This is no coincidence. This is the year that I started to establish what was happening and acquiring the evidence in relation to the international fraud via the company I was part of called Exbourne Manor Freehold Limited, and where I acquired forged bank documents that I refused to file, and they removed me from the company as a director, and that removal was initiated from somebody from the Fleming company. We're going to come to the Fleming company, Fleming family, and we're going to come to them in a moment. Further down, you can see that it mentions the Saudi Vision 2030, which ties in with the climate change agenda in the Western nations. Here's the Saudi Vision 2030. And you can see at the bottom that it states it was first announced in April 2016. Well, this is important because this is the same year, according to the research, that the satanic ritual abuse took place at CERN, the Hadron Collider. It's also the same year when TikTok, the social media platform, was created. TikTok, which I now suspect is a symbolic visual representation of a countdown to their plans against humanity and Earth itself. There's been several representations linking into this, including the Doomsday Clock that was set up in 1947, and that represented a man-made apocalyptic event linking into nuclear or technological advances. Well, CERN Hadron Collider fits that. Also, that same year or around that time, you had the Association of Chief Constables organisation was created. The police are heavily implicated in facilitating these crimes against humanity and the plans involving the CERN Hadron Collider. TikTok, via the research, links to Donald Trump. Despite what he said, you will see evidence of that on the CERN Hadron Collider document and videos, and that links to his organisations via the Cheetah Technologies company. Of course, he will be being controlled by people above him that do not want their name to be exposed in relation to all of this. You also had the Georgia Guidestones that were erected in America in 1980, which also represented an upcoming man-made apocalyptic nuclear or technological event. That links to Exborn Manor Freehold Limited, the company I was removed from. So I actually now suspect from all of the evidence that the money that they are converging in relation to these events are being funneled into the Hadron Colliders around the world and their plans against humanity and Earth involving them. Let's look at King Saud University, which is where he obtained his law degree. Okay, remember, the whole legal system has been set up to facilitate this international plan and crime and fraud. And this was established in 1957. This is 3 years after CERN was founded, the Hadron Collider, or CERN, the company. It's also a year before Charles was initiated to become the Prince of Wales in 1969. It's also the year before NASA was founded to allow the international deception in relation to Earth and our universe. NASA is one letter short of Satan. It says that it was established by King Saudi bin Abdulaziz to address the country's skilled worker shortage. It is the first university in Saudi Arabia, and it has what its previous name was here from 1964. This is a year after the supposed assassination of JFK, which links into all of what we're talking about, and also a year before the creation of the most important company in the fraud, Jordans and Sons Limited, and it's 2 years before the foundation of the Church of Satan, which also is important in relation to this. It then was converted, after that it says it then reverted to its inceptive name in 1982. This is 2 years after the Georgia Guidestones were erected, and those Georgia Guidestones were damaged and then removed at a key time in the exposure of this evidence in 2022. It then shows that the university was converted into an independent non-profit academic institution in 2023 as I'm continuing to expose the fraud. The name of the university links to Wales, which you can see here, which is of course where Charles was the prince and where Companies House is based, and Companies House creates the fraudulent companies by forging the register and forging the incorporation documents. Further down, research continuing, it says in relation to the university, establishing Saudi Arabia's first university was a response to the educational and professional needs of a young nation. King Abdulaziz became the king in 1932. This is also relevant because the very important company Ian Fleming Co. Limited was also founded in that year. That company changed its name the day before Larry Silverstein purchased the lease for the World Trade Center building on the 24th of July 2001, not long before the collapse of the building, and that was the only time that the World Trade Center had ever changed hands in its 31 years history. So this laid the foundation for establishing an educational system within Saudi Arabia. Now, the Flemings within the United Kingdom, they are very key to everything that we're seeing here due to the links to the international banking fraud and JP Morgan. Okay, they were originally a banking family linking with the Rothschilds. And the person that initiated my removal is closely linked into universities, okay, the educational establishment. Reading on, it says in 1953, King Saud, the eldest son of Abdulaziz, acceded to the throne upon his father's death and instituted the Council of Ministers and Ministry Education. 1953 is the year of the coronation of Queen Elizabeth II, which is so important in relation to this, and also when the MK Ultra program was initiated. This linked to the intelligence agencies and non-consensual mass mind control against the population of the world, certainly the Western nation. But I think we can now assume it's the world. It also mentions further below here another date of 1957 that we've talked about. And you can pause that. Here it says, between 1958 and 1960, the College of Sciences, the College of Business, in brackets now the College of Public Administration, and the College of Pharmacy were established. Okay, remember 1958 is the year that NASA was founded and also the year that Prince Charles was initiated to become the Prince of Wales in 1969, which obviously links to Companies House. Now notice the pharmacy connection here, because everything that we're seeing is all linking in also to what happened to the world in 2019 and 2020 and the interventions that we were forced to have. Further down, you can see a royal decree in 1961 recognised that King Saud University was an independent legal entity with a budget of its own, responsible for higher education, promoting scholarly research and advancement of sciences and arts. So you can see they were trying to pursue science, which obviously links in through to the CERN Hadron Collider, and 1961 is a key year because it is when De La Rue, the currency producer, purchased Waterloos, which was a company founded well before that, before World War One, and the Waterloos company is linked to the Freemasons significantly in the fraud. So you can see they gained full control of finances, which enabled them to buy people out to facilitate their plans in relation to humanity. You can see here in 1965, the College of Agriculture was established and KSU assumed control over the Colleges of Engineering and Education, formerly under the Ministry of Education in cooperation with UNESCO. Well, 1965 is the year when the most important company in the fraud, Jordans and Sons Limited, which its latest name is Vistra Limited, was founded. This is the year before the Church of Satan and is the most important company in the fraud. Here, as I've just said, you have a link to UNESCO. UNESCO, as you can see here, links to the United Nations. If you followed my evidence, you will know that United Nations are very significantly and quickly linked to the CERN Hadron Collider, and they have fraudulent criminal companies started with Swifting Corporations and Jordans Limited, the exact same companies that started Exborn Manor Freehold Limited. On the right, his early career, going back to Muhammad, I believe, it just mentions that on the 15th of December 2009, again, remember the year of the foundation of the Royal Foundation of the Prince and Princess of Wales Company, he entered politics as a special advisor to his father when the latter was the governor of that province, again linking in with Wales. Further down, it says in October 2011, Crown Prince Abdulaziz died. Prince Salman began his ascent to power by becoming second Deputy Prime Minister and Minister of Defence. He made Mohammed his private advisor. Well, 2011 is also the year, supposedly, that Jimmy Savile died. And this all links in to Jimmy Savile being very significant in relation to all of this. It's also the year before, obviously, they supposedly discovered the Higgs boson or God particle at CERN Hadron Collider. Here you can see that in June 2012, the Crown Prince Abdulaziz died. Mohammed moved up into the number 2 position in the hierarchy as his father became the new Crown Prince and first Deputy Prime Minister. Now, we have to consider with all of these deaths tying in that the deaths are staged or murders are really taking place to facilitate their plans against humanity. And this is a month before they discovered the Higgs boson or God particle at CERN, and 2 months after a meeting took place with Jeffrey Epstein and Stephen Hawkins, the scientist who is linked into the international fraud and child trafficking via the Companies House registration system. Others at that meeting were people from CERN discussing gravitational effects, and that would have included black holes or points of singularities and event horizons. Now, looking at the Companies House registration system in relation to Mohammed Salman, which is so important, this is the first time that this has ever come up when I've tried searching for somebody. AI came in right at the beginning and said there are no records linking to the Prince of Saudi Arabia. This appears to suggest they really don't want people to realise the connections that I'm now making. On the right, it does, however, bring up an entry for a slightly different spelling of Mohammed Salman with an O at the beginning with a U at the beginning instead of an O. When we look in through to this company, you will see how important it is and where they appear to be trying to hide the connections, because this record links to Pro Estate Management Limited. When you go into Pro Estate Management Limited, it dissolved in February 2022. This is when I was starting to first make inquiries and ask questions about the accounts in relation to Exborn Manor Freehold Limited. It's also the same month that Vladimir Putin announced his special military operation against Ukraine. And Russia is also linking in very quickly to the Flemings and the international collaborative deception tying in to CERN, the Hadron Collider. On the incorporation document for this company, which you can find in the filing history, Companies Made Simple. Companies Made Simple is, I would say, the third most important company in the fraud, because it links and makes the connection between the National Council for Civil Liberties and the UK government to a connection to the Paedophile Information Exchange and to Silverstein Real Estates. And they've removed a company name from a very important sign section on a document on a Companies House record for Westco Nominees Limited, which connects to Companies Made Simple. This is serious fraud, and I suspect it's to hide that connection to the paedophile network and the World Trade Center disaster, the international crimes against humanity, and now the ultimate goal and aim of theirs, which appears to be linking into CERN, the Hadron Collider, and them trying to create a point of singularity as a mockery, an inversion of creation itself. Mohammed is also connected to FP Management Limited. And again, Companies Made Simple is on the incorporation document. And here to show he's the only person of significant control for that document. Now remember, you can see the date of birth here. It's 2 years different from the Wikipedia entry. Okay, but this is one of the elements of the fraud, is there is no verification on Companies House specifically to facilitate what I believe now is the ultimate plan of CERN and their plans against humanity, linking into the satanic cults. Okay, so they're trying to hide it with falsified information and no verification. This is where it gets incredibly important. So it's all important, but you'll see the relevance of what this is now. So Mohammed also connects to Prudent Asset Management, the research links to this company. And you can see it was founded in 2014, but changed its name again in 2016. Remember what we've said about the satanic ritual apparently taking place at CERN. Now, this one's slightly different because on the incorporation document, it has the formationscompany.com Limited. And we'll come to that in a minute. Looking at the filing history, you can see when Mohammed ceased to be a director. According to this, it was on the 11th of July 2022. This is 3 days after I approached the acting chairman of Exbourne Manor Freehold Limited, Anthony Roberts, to look at the bank documents for the company, which then triggered his resignation and all of the fraud that I've exposed ever since. That is not a coincidence. So it appears as though they've panicked and they've tried to remove all of these companies and names. And I've actually found out today, somebody sent me some evidence that since I've exposed this, nearly 1.2 million companies have dissolved on Companies House. This is about 20% of all of the companies registered on Companies House. You can see when he was appointed here in the middle, according to the filing history, in February 2019. Well, this is the year of the outbreak, okay, which was all staged and planned and part of this. Here you can see various address changes. So one on the 15th of April 2015. This is looking in the filing history. Go and check it. An address change. And then not long afterwards, 27th of April, another address change. And then 15th of October 2016. This is another element to avoid the discovery and exposure and the accountability and liability for their crimes of what they're planning. On the persons of significant control, you can see that this is the active person on the tab, and they were notified and created on the 11th of July 2022, which ties in with the resignation of Mohammed Salman being the significant person of control. You can see on the 11th of July 2022. Now, this is very important. Remember the company, the formationscompany.com, because this connects immediately the leaders of Iran, Saudi Arabia, Donald Trump, Israel, Benjamin Netanyahu, to the international government fraud, and importantly, to Fleming Co. Limited. And Fleming Co. Limited was incorporated. You can just see it's a bit blurred because this is a screenshot from the evidence that I've already submitted in relation to Benjamin Netanyahu, Donald Trump, and the Iranian leader and the royal family. But it was incorporated in 2017. That is when Mohammed became into an important position within the Saudi Arabia government. You can see that this company, when I took the screenshot, is now striking off or dissolving as a result, no doubt, of the exposure of the fraud. So that connects in very quickly. But let's go further into this now, because another company comes up when you research the name. Now, it might be there was a slight different spelling I'd put, but it brings up this record. Mohammed bin Nawaf bin Abdulaziz. Okay, we've been talking about Abdulaziz in the research, and he links to King Fahad Academy Limited, which is in the process of liquidation. Okay, you can see it's going into liquidation as I'm exposing the fraud. It immediately links to the fraud via the address 30 Finsbury Square, which I know is linked to the Flemings, but we're going to come to that a bit more. And it was incorporated in 1987. This is 2 years before the creation of the World Wide Web that was created as a result of CERN. It was by somebody who was working at CERN in 1980, okay, and they link immediately to Dorset and back into Flemings. And in fact, they lived in Wimborne, which is where Deborah Fleming and John Fleming live. That were the ones that initiated my removal from Exbourne Manor Freehold Limited. So this company is now dissolving according to this. Here's the incorporation document, just to show you that document. And you can see at the bottom OYES, that links to the international fraud. And you can see some names and signatures further down on the document. His Excellency Sheikh Nazir Al Malik. Sorry, forgive me if I'm not even going to try and pronounce these. But you can see there on it. You can see the Royal Kingdom of Saudi Arabia is mentioned. The embassy, sorry. Another name here. Abdullah Bari, Senior Counsellor at the Saudi Arabian Embassy in London. It's a very significant people involved in the incorporation of this company. On the left, looking into the people record of the company, Penelope Ralph, appointed before 1991. Now, this in itself is very important date because 1991 is when the Gulf War ended, everybody. The Gulf War would almost certainly have been staged in relation to these crimes against humanity and their plans. 1991 is also the year, and it sounds silly, but it's not, when the year Terminator 2 Judgment Day was created or released. That is my favourite movie and links back into, via its director, James Cameron, who's very likely linked or connected to David Cameron in the UK government. And he links to Ingenious Film Partners, which then connects through into the foundation, Royal Foundation of the Prince and Princess of Wales Company. On the right, within that person, it links to Gulf International Bank UK Limited. And this company was incorporated in 1975, 4 years after the World Economic Forum, which is all relevant to this. And remember, the chair for the World Economic Forum, Klaus Schwab, announced his proposal or plans to step down as the chair within 3 days of me sending the evidence that I had to the World Economic Forum, to the FBI, to the World Health Organization and other international organizations. And of course, he ended up actually resigning, if you'd be aware of this, the same day that the Pope died. This is all relevant because all of this links into the Vatican and an international collaborative deception and to the satanic cult. And I believe it is meant to be prevented, their plans. And I believe it will. But everybody needs to make the right decision here and get behind me, get behind this evidence and not comply to this criminal system. Stop paying your taxes and form local groups. And you need to stop working, form local groups, okay, in your communities and protest by an international strike. All right, we need to prevent this. You can see the name changes at the bottom here. So this is a bank, okay? Now, all banks are involved in this fraud, okay? On the left, within that Gulf International Bank company, you have Caroline Aitchison, and she links to a company, and I'm just showing this one because it is literally the same company that's linking into all of the other latest documents I've done, the Girls' Day School Trust, linking into the educational establishments and the international child trafficking, according to the research. Another person within the company, Ralph Campbell, links to Western Canada Investment Company Limited. Now, I can't show all of them. It's literally all the way through this, everybody, the fraud. I cannot emphasize this enough. It is international. It involves international governments. They've infiltrated the entire world as part of their evil plans. And this company is fraudulent. It was started... Oh, where's it gone? It's fraudulent because they forged the register. You can see it has the word "the" in the brackets at the end. Well, on the right, you can see it's not. It's got "the" at the front, not in brackets. So they forged the register. The address links to the fraud, and it dissolved in 2011. Okay, so this, again, this is important. The supposed death of Jimmy Savile in relation to this, and they will be staging deaths, okay, making it appear as though people have died when they haven't, possibly to make people fearful of speaking out about this. And a good example would be the helicopter crash in America on the 10th of April 2025, where a Siemens CEO supposedly died, and 3 of his children in a helicopter crash. And I suspect that was staged to make people within Siemens fearful to speak out about the crimes that they're part of. And many deaths, I believe, have been staged. And let's face it, they haven't killed me. All right, so that's a huge question, why they wouldn't have done. And I've got theories in relation to it. And one of those theories is that a lot of the deaths you're seeing are staged events involving individuals to silence other people as the exposure continues and stop them or make them scared to speak out. Everyone must speak out. Must. There is no option. No matter whether you're part of this or not, you must start speaking out, because otherwise everything is at stake for you, particularly, I believe, moving forward, linking into a falsified, inverted, potential rapture event linking with scripture. And I'm going to come to that later. So on the right, we have another connection here, very important. We're coming in from that bank, okay? It's the same company we're looking at here. Gary Withers links to the Commonwealth Bank of Australia, okay? So this now links, of course, with the Royal Foundation, the monarchy, dissolved in October 2020. And on the incorporation document, if it loads up, have I got the incorporation document? Allen and Overy, okay? Links into the international government fraud. On the right, within the company, we have Rolf Ernst Bauer, a German banker, no surprise, and they link to Deutsche Morgan Glenfell Group Limited, which is now in liquidation. Okay, we've talked about 20% of companies having already dissolved. We've got all of these other companies now still in the process of dissolving, and there will be many, many more. But we must unite and prevent their plans, apparent plans, and it's overwhelming evidence, to be honest with you, in relation to these plans now. And it's linked to the fraud via the address 10 Fleet Place, which links to the UK government. Here you can see all of the name changes. Well, the company was created in 1971, okay, the year that the World Economic Forum was founded. I strongly suspect that the Morgan name in this is related to JP Morgan, which then links to the Flemings. Within the Gulf Bank Company, this person, who is Dutch, Peter de Roos, links to SOS Sahel International. Okay, now that very same company has featured in relation to my research of the helicopter crash, and here's the screenshot from it. Bearing in mind we've just been talking about it. You have the company on page 107 of 167, SOS Sahel International. This is just one of the links. There's links all the way through. You've basically got overlapping evidence right the way through this within a few companies. It's very clearly a centralized criminal system. That's what everyone needs to understand. They have centralized everything using pornography and leading to paedophilia to entrap everybody. As soon as they have evidence on somebody in relation to something like that, they've got full control over those individuals. And that's how it appears they've managed to get this far with this by entrapping everybody. And the company, the page before that, so this is just a screenshot taken from the helicopter research, the helicopter crash research. So this is page 106. You can see the Diana, Princess of Wales Memorial Fund Trustee Company at the top left there. Okay, and remember we're talking about the deception with climate change. We actually have the climate movement, okay, and disasters emergency committee, because they want to control through deception humanity utilizing false disasters. Okay, this is what they're doing, and now they've got control of artificial intelligence. They're able to deceive you even more to try and control you through fear of disasters. It's all deception. They may create the disasters, okay, they would almost certainly have murdered, according to the evidence, many people as part of the deception in relation to this. And this, of course, means they're capable of the ultimate crime involving CERN Hadron Collider. And a lot of the evidence does suggest that they've actually indoctrinated and programmed people from birth to be part of this sinister plan, linking in with the satanic cults and the infiltration of government. So within the company, we have Miriam Greenwood, links to Smart Metering Systems Limited. I'm just showing you that because that's the exact same company linking to the fraud. And also they link to Mithras Investment Trust. Well, Mithras companies feature in the research. You can see it is in liquidation. It links to King's Orchard, Queen Street address. Okay, they're always using these, quite often using the Royal Associated addresses. And FRP Advisory in that address also links to the international government fraud. This was incorporated in 1990, the year after the World Wide Web was founded, which was in 1989. And obviously, as I've said, links to CERN. On the incorporation document for this company, many companies. Oh, where's it gone? I'm not going to read all of them, but you can see here, Amazon at the bottom, Amazon Computers Limited, Amazon Energy Limited, Amazon Systems Limited. Look when they became directors, 1989, when the World Wide Web was created, linking to CERN, okay, which is obviously enabled through the pornography on the World Wide Web to facilitate their control as well. Somebody told me yesterday, actually, that apparently you can't access pornography now online. And that supposedly happened in the last 2 weeks. Now, if that is the case, then that's huge. You can see all of these other companies here. Legal and General linking into insurance companies. South Wales Electricity. This is all on that incorporation document for that company we're looking at. Pension companies. Don't know what SIN is, actually. I haven't read that one before. But you can see here all of these other companies. Lovett Enterprises, that links to Lovells and the World Trade Center disaster. Monarch Properties. Film production company. Okay, I haven't researched that, but it very likely links into Ingenious Film Partners, which links in all of the fraud. That then makes the link to Hollywood, because the entertainment industry is so important, because that way they can control you through the subliminal messages of sound and vision and other technology that they have. And anyone that doesn't believe that's possible, trust me, if you were to flicker an image so quickly into a television screen that you wouldn't generally perceive it, you'll be thinking you're watching a show. Your brain will still acknowledge that message, and it could say anything. It could say support Donald Trump. It could say pay your taxes. Okay, your brain will acknowledge that, and eventually you can program the brain. Also here, some other companies, just showing you all of these links. And in relation to Mithras, the previous research links to the World Trade Center disaster around the Mithras companies. You can see Credit Suisse linking in, or Swiss linking to 9/11 World Trade Center via my research. Also Bournemouth and Christchurch Paul Council. Okay, it linked into the research immediately to that. And of course, Bournemouth is where Expour Manor is based. Back within the company, the Gulf International Company, we have John Melbourne, links to Tesco. Various Tesco companies. I'm only showing you some of it. Those of you aren't in the UK, it's the food, one of the main supermarket companies. Now, all supermarkets are centralised, all a part of this fraud. It enables them to put things into the food chain, okay, which may have various things in it. I'm not going to, but hopefully you've seen my other evidence. But here, you'll see that Tesco links into the research very quickly of the Israel attacks in 2023 at the Nova Music Festival. And I'm just showing you page 10 of this document from a screenshot. And that's because the IDF Group Limited is in this research from the attacks. Okay, now remember, this happened as I'm continuing to expose the fraud. It will be as a result of my exposure to try and facilitate their deception moving forward, tying in with falsified biblical events, okay, or biblical prophecies. And this company, this shows you that it was all designed, all of this, well before World War I, because the IDF company was started in 1903 on the bottom left there. 1903. And you can see the relevant name changes for the IDF company. Okay, now they've actually haven't got, which is very unusual, its first registered section. Okay, it's only started from 1979. Well, 1979 is when the Georgia Guidestones, which we mentioned earlier, were being planned to be erected in 1980. It then changed its name in 1991. Okay, we've already said why that's so key. It's when the Gulf War ended. I think it ended in May, actually. Okay, so this is almost immediately afterwards it changed its name, and we had the World Trade Center disaster, and we had the creation of the World Wide Web, time with CERN, and you can see they then changed their name again in November 2001. Well, that is obviously 2 months after the World Trade Center disaster. So this is the IDF group, the Israel Defense Force, okay, linking in with everything going on in Israel, and it's a criminal company. Can't see it on this because it's a screenshot, but it's a fraudulent company. So right back then, this was planned. And further down on the document, you then make links to Evelyn Partners. So this is on page... Sorry, this is further on in the document. So I'm just showing you some connections. This is coming from the Nova Music Research, Nova Music Festival Research. Evelyn Partners, you'll see why I mentioned that in a minute. On the right, Ingenious Film Partners, that's exactly the same company that links all of the fraud, links to Hollywood, and that's on the Royal Foundation of the Prince and Princess of Wales. You then link to ITV companies, loads of television companies, bearing in mind what I've just told you, and those exact same companies then connect to the Lucy Letby case, okay, via the research of the doctors that instigated the investigation against her supposedly killing babies in the Chester Hospital, I believe it was. Royal Chester Hospital. And then on page 48 of the document, we actually have a company called Children's Traffic Club Limited. Okay, that was started in 1963, 3 years before the foundation of the Church of Satan. They've actually named it. It's a criminal company. So this is all still on screen. This is just screenshots taken from the Israel attacks evidence. And then the reason I'm showing you is because then it makes links very quickly from the Children's Traffic Club. It makes links to Booker Finance. Well, Booker Finance is actually part of Tesco's. Okay, you can go and research that, and that is also on the documents. So Gulf International, back into that company, Peter Farrer, which is potentially a very relevant name, okay, because Farrer and Co., I think it's the same spelling, is a company that's used and linked to Ghislaine Maxwell in relation to the fraud. She was a director for Oxford Football Club, obviously in Oxfordshire, and which is where, interestingly, the Diamond Light project, which ties in with CERN, is, okay, and Farrer and Co. is linked to Ghislaine Maxwell. Well, he connects to a yacht company, Charter Yachts UK Limited. And that's important because the money laundered from the masses to hide it can be put into tangible assets such as yachts. This is why there's so many yachts companies. This is why you had the Michelle Mone scandal involving a yacht and the PPE equipment for the COVID situation. This is why Deborah Fleming links quickly to yacht companies. It links to the World Trade Center disaster. And I think we mentioned yacht companies in a minute in relation to this king of or prince of Saudi Arabia. Same director that we're looking at now links to National Westminster Bank Public Limited. I know that's criminal, that's featured in the fraud. All banks are, but that particular company is fraudulently registered. And then we have links to within the company, okay, to a Right Honourable Richardson of Duntisbourne. So let's have a quick look at the research surrounding him. On the left, just typing it into Google. On the right, going into the actual information. And he was governor of the Bank of England, okay, from 1915 until 2010. He served during the Second World War and became a member of the Order of the British Empire Military Division in 1944. He was called to the Bar of Gray's Inn, which is linked to this fraud, becoming a member of the Bar Council between 1951 and 1955. Now, 1955 is a key year because it is when it appears, well, it is when Walt Disney opened the first Disneyland resort in America, okay, but he was influenced by the Blackpool Pleasure Beach, okay, and the Blackpool Pleasure Beach is linked into this international government fraud and an apparent potential murder of the real heirs to the throne in the late 1950s, early 1960s. He became the director of J. Henry Schroeder and Co. in 1957. Remember, we've been talking about 1957? Well, that is a huge, I believe, asset or finance management company, and that is the company that Thomas Kingston worked for, and he, according to the information, was found dead, potentially by a gunshot wound in early 2024, and he links to the royal family. And he was later the chairman of this organisation between 1962 and 1973. 1973 is supposedly when the MK Ultra program stopped. Okay, and all of these dates are relevant for one reason or another, all tying in to this international fraud. He was appointed governor of the Bank of England in 1973, okay, the same year that I've just spoken about, and remained in that position until 1983, 2 years after the Georgia Guidestones were erected. Further down, it says that while serving as the governor, Richardson joined the Privy Council and was awarded the Territorial Decoration. He was created a life peer as Baron Richardson of Duntisbourne in the county of Gloucestershire, and a knight companion of the Order of the Garter, both in 1983. And I believe this may link into the Knights Templar, and the Knights Templar links to the Baphomet symbol, which links to the Church of Satan. Further down on the research for him, it says that Richardson was a member of Morgan Stanley Advisory Board from 1984. Between 1985 and 1991, he was a member of the Group of 30 and thereafter remained as their honorary chair. He was the chairman of the Pilgrim Trust from 1984 to 1989. Well, Morgan Stanley is linked to J.P. Morgan. It was actually, I believe, one of the grandsons, I think, of J.P. Morgan that set up Morgan Stanley. And they link to the Flemings. So back into the Gulf International Company on the left, Andrew Sykes links to, remember we've just mentioned it, Evelyn Partners. Evelyn Partners also links to the research of Rishi Sunak very, very quickly, and through into the research of Carol Vorderman, which ironically ties into this because of the obvious entertainment industry connection. But they tried hiding that, and this is what they do. So Carol Vorderman came out and tried publicly to undermine Rishi Sunak whilst he was the Prime Minister of the United Kingdom. Well, she actually links very, very quickly to Rishi Sunak's companies, the same companies. So what they're doing is drawing you in to believe in individuals. But really now the only way to know who to trust is if anyone that's not exposing this international fraud, they cannot be trusted. It's as simple as that, because so many people have been infiltrated, whether it be mind control through sex, through drug addiction, through the finances because it's worth trillions of pounds, or other reasons. They may have been actually indoctrinated and programmed from birth to be part of this program against humanity. No one can be trusted. It's as simple as that, unless they're going to assist in exposing this fraud. Here we have JP Morgan now links to that same director. Remember what we've been talking about, JP Morgan, okay? Massively part of this. And on the right, Schroders PLC. Remember we've just been talking about Schroders and the link to Thomas Kingston. And also there's a link to Schroder Middle East Limited, which was dissolved in 2016, the same year as the ritual abuse took place at CERN. You can see when it was started, 1981, a year after the Georgia Guidestones were erected, changed its name in February 2001 before the World Trade Center disaster. And here, the director links to Siemens. Remember, the Siemens helicopter crash that we've been talking about? Here you have a very quick link to Siemens. On the right within the company, this person connects to the London Central Mosque Trust Limited with the in the brackets. This was incorporated. Remember, we've been talking about the Israel-Arab war in relation to this, all tying in very importantly with the Doomsday Clock, with the Association of Chief Constables, with many other important companies. The United Nations were created around that time. Well, this one was also incorporated in 1947, the year before the Israel-Arab War, and that was the same year. This is the same year that the United Nations were involved in a petition that led to that war the year afterwards. And it's a fraudulent company, not registered legally. Within the company on the left, so that was a mosque, okay, in London, okay. What else was I going to say about that? So it was incorporated in 1917. Sorry, this was important. I haven't shown this. So 1917, you can see the stamp on the document. Well, that is the year, okay, of the Balfour Declaration involving the Rothschilds that led to the creation of Israel, linking in with the Israel-Arab War. On the left, within the company, this person links to the mosque of the custodian of the two holy mosques and Islamic Centre of Edinburgh Trust. Big company name there. Well, Edinburgh's key in all of this. It's where the oldest active Freemason lodge is based. And I suspect the geography has been completely lied about. It's possible from the evidence I've got that Edinburgh is the real Jerusalem, and everything that we're seeing going on in the Middle East is false and part of the deception. This company was created in 2013, the year after the Higgs boson or God particle was created. And just showing you the incorporation documents, some of the names on it. Edinburgh, and remember we're talking about the Balfour Declaration. Here you have Balfour and Manson. Okay, and the company Balfour Beatty also links into this, a very old company. And you can see all of these names. A doctor. These are on the incorporation document for that company. An advisor to the king. The advisor to the king. Dr. Abdul Abul al-Turki. Also some other names here. You can see this person's Director General of the Islamic Culture Centre in London. So you can see this all ties in with the immigration side of things, everybody. Okay, and here you can see the prince is actually named within the first company and the research surrounding him. So we're now looking at Mohammed bin Nawaf Al Saud, who was one of the people that died. You can see he supposedly died in 1953. Well, this is the same year as the coronation of the Queen. It's possible he was murdered. He was a Saudi Arabian diplomat. Oh, he was born 1953. I do apologise. The year of the coronation of the Queen. I do apologise. Who served as the Saudi Arabian ambassador to Italy, where the Vatican is based, Malta, the Knights of Malta, okay, which links to the Knights Templar, the United Kingdom and Ireland. He's a member of the Saudi ruling family, a grandson of King Abdulaziz. Now, he was born, as I've said, in 1953. He received a Bachelor of Science degree from Edmund A. Walsh School of Foreign Service. And we can see here it links to JFK. He also obtained an MPA degree from the JFK, John F. Kennedy School of Government, Harvard University. But looking at that first school, it's in Washington, D.C., okay, and is the oldest continuously operating school for international affairs. So all set up as part of this, okay. You can see here research in relation to him since 1982. Running out of time, actually. How far are we in? Oh my goodness, yeah. Hopefully we'll just get this in. In 1989, the Salem Intercultural Resource Centre, which is located on the top floor of the ICC, this is talking about the school, sorry, still. ICC was opened in the ceremony presided by President Jimmy Carter. 1989 is when the World Wide Web, okay, was created by the person working at CERN. Jimmy Carter became the United States President in 1977, the year I was born. And you can see another reference to 1989. This all ties in, everybody, to their plans, utilising the World Wide Web and the Digital Register of Companies House to commit this fraud by falsifying it. Okay, but also there's an evidential chain of links, or link of evidential documents, etc. within there. So here you can see from 1975 until 2016, the ISD also awarded the Edward Weintel Prize for Diplomatic Reporting to journalists in recognition of their distinguished reporting on foreign policy of diplomacy. Well, 2016, as I've said, satanic ritual abuse at CERN and TikTok created. In 1992, following the collapse of the Soviet Union and the Eastern Bloc, and hopefully some of you have seen my research in relation to the CERN Hadron Collider, it links into this, and Stephen Hawking's actually, from Stephen Hawking's companies, okay, who, remember, is involved in CERN, you hit Gorbachev companies, okay, who was the former leader for the Soviet Union. It actually links through his wife. So we have these connections all very quickly linking in here to CERN and the plans regarding the Hadron Colliders. In 1995, the Security Studies Program, SSP, which was founded in 1977 as the National Security Studies Program and hosted the US Department of Defense headquarters in the Pentagon, was moved to Georgetown's main campus, incorporated into the SFS. Well, 1995 is when the important company, the Hakluyt Advisory Company, which is again on the document of the Royal Foundation of the Prince and Princess of Wales, was created. That company has since dissolved, since I've exposed it. That links the Russian government to the child trafficking, the international fraud, to the royal family, through into the Flemings and Ukraine, and the international collaborative deception in relation to the conflicts. In 2002, the school studied the feasibility of the opening campus of Qatar. So it links to Qatar, which, as you've seen in my evidence, links very closely to the research surrounding the Egyptian infiltration, potentially, of the Church of Satan and the death of the Princess of Wales in 1997, which is the same year that the movie, the Event Horizon, came out. Now, I'm not going to have time to look at all of this because I want to keep it under an hour, but you can see all of these dates tie in. We've also got a 2012 date again linking in, 1995 date again, 2011 date, which is again tying in with the death of Jimmy Savile, all tying in and relevant. In fact, we've got 3 minutes, so I might be able to just go through this. So you've got the Qatar Foundation, the Centre of Muslim Christian Understanding, okay? Remember, this is an infiltration of all faith groups. And then you can see, as I've mentioned, in 2011, following the United Nations Security Council Resolution 1325, US Secretary of State Hillary Clinton launched the Georgetown Institute for Women, Peace and Security, tying into this university that we're looking at, okay? And the date of the death of Jimmy Savile. Now, I suspect he's so important. He was obviously connected to the entertainment industry, the use of subliminal messages through radio initially, and then he was heavily involved in television. Though I think they've used this along with medication to control and exploit children, importantly using the exploitation of children to then facilitate their control of the fraud and the international governments to reach this point where they have been able to exploit humanity so much by so much money that they are funneling it all into this plan against humanity involving CERN. On the right, again, the 1995 connection. Remember, Hakluyt was created. Prince Mohammed was appointed ambassador to Italy and Malta. This is so important because you've got the link to the Vatican in all of this. Okay? And the resignation of the Archbishop of Canterbury and the death of the Pope is not a coincidence. It is all staged as part of this collaborative deception against humanity. Further down, you can see he was invited to the, this is talking about Mohammed, the prince again. He was invited to and participated in the Queen's Jubilee Luncheon organised at Windsor Castle in May 2012, okay, the year of the Higgs boson God particle. Okay, this is just before, remember, it was April that the meeting took place with Jeffrey Epstein and Stephen Hawking and CERN scientists, and then in July the Higgs boson particle, God particle, was discovered. Thanks very much for watching. Sorry about rushing the last bit. I wanted to get it into under the hour. Thanks very much. Take care. Everyone, unite. Stop complying to this system. Everything is at risk. Thank you very much.